day. So, in very short, the point is that this table right now, you see a table, looks like it's independent. We know that in order for this table to exist, it has to be every second and second, it has to be recreated every second and second. Where does this come from, by the way? You ever heard this word before? That the world's created every you ever heard this word before? That every second the world's being created every second and second? Where does it say this word? Where does it say this? Where does it say that? Pretty good. Every second is being, it's a few rayas, right? But it's not only rayas, it's also, if you think about it, like the guy that, I want to ask the question, if someone makes a table, you don't have to make the table every second and second. Why by God does it have to be every second and second? Has to remake the table every second and second?
It's from nothing to something.
You ever heard this? You ever heard this about before?
Yeah.
What's the
snack says because it's
you have to understand it, because if you just know it's every second and second, it's not going to get you nowhere in life. You're still going to live your whole life based on food and based on money and based on gashmis. You know that it's every second, but you don't understand it. You have to understand it. You have to think about it again and again to live your life that way. So the problem is that there's no example for this in the world. There's no connect. It's hard to understand it because it doesn't exist in our world. But the fact is that when a person came and made a table, he didn't make anything. The wood was there before without him, so it's going to be there also tomorrow. No one ever made anything in this world. It's impossible to make. The biggest scientists have done, they can't make the wing of a fly. No one can make anything. They take something from something. So obviously, it doesn't need to be every second and second because they didn't even do anything. If someone would make something from nothing, it would have to be every second and second and second. What's the example for that? Give me a proof. Like, is that true? I know it's true.
A child.
A few rayas for that. It's very funny because every Rebbe brings it down more and more and more. So the first example that Rebbe gives in Tani is, imagine now you're going through the water now, it's Kriyas Yamsuf. What happened with Kriyas Yamsuf?
Something the water split.
The water it's supposed to flow. What happened all of a sudden? A wind came and made something from nothing. You didn't create something because you don't have that example. But the fact that the water is standing like a wall, that's a new existence in water. The second the wind would leave, it would go back to its previous status. Right? Because that's a new existence. If it's a new existence, so it's dependent on the power that made that existence. And that you can understand. If you see the water, you just think about the fact the water is supposed to flow and someone's holding it up. That's like a new thing. An example that the Rebbe Rashab gave is if someone throws something, a rock, right? So the rock is supposed to be on the floor. You're going against its nature. So you're making like a new existence in the rock. You're making the rock go up against its nature. The power leaves your hand, picks up the rock into the air. The second your power leaves the rock, it goes back to its previous status. Right? And the truth is, if you think about it, it's not 5 seconds afterwards the rock fell down. The rock is always on the floor. A rock is on the floor the whole time. But I see the rock is flying up. Okay, because the person's hand is pushing it up. The power of the person is pushing it up. The rock didn't change from all the other rocks. It's a regular rock like any other rock. But I see that the rock is going upwards. You're right, you see that, but it's not that the rock is going up. It's the person's power is pushing it up. And the second the power leaves, it goes back. But it was always down. So God made the world from nothing. It has to be every second and second. It's dependent on God's power. The second that power leaves, it goes back to nothing. But even when it's there, it's also not really there by itself. It's not independent. It's not a real existence. So the whole world, you're right, you see, and you have to think about it and imagine it also. Imagine you would see now the table every second and second coming nothing. All the tidings you see, whatever. Imagine, and you're able to understand it. How much significance would it give you? You know how much people suffer in this world just because of what they see in this world, what's happening to them in this world. This is like the deepest therapy. It goes to the source of all anxieties, of all trauma. But at the end of the day, it's really it's not a thing for itself. So this is what the Rebbe says. You have to understand. You have to live your life. Vidat ha'ayim, v'shoyis levavecho, ki havai hu elikim. What's havai hu elikim? Shalom, you remember? I hope you don't remember. I hope you're always thinking about it. You know, they say about the Rosh Hashanah, was the Rosh Hashanah. He didn't have the best memory. How did you know the whole Shas backwards and forwards? He didn't have a good memory. Every day he went to Shas. Every day he was thinking through all the sugyas, so that's why you know. The mind has to remember. You're supposed to every day think about the mind, whatever, until now at least. Havayu Elikim. What's Havaya?
A certain level.
Havaya means when someone goes, opens up a letter of the Rebbe, and right away he sees exactly every detail that he needed to know in the Rebbe. He goes outside, he sees the video of the Rebbe, and right away he sees the Rebbe speaks exactly what he spoke about to the Rebbe. Havaya means when you see revealed godliness in this world, and everyone sees it once in a while, right? Everyone sees these things. Havaya is it's a gilui lakus, that when someone experiences godliness, you just know that if people don't realize this is the biggest thing that you could get in this world. You know that Chassidim would fabring more when a person would tell you, I just saw a sefer, I just saw a letter of the Rebbe, I just saw. Do you know that in a way they would speak about more than the biggest miracles of the Rebbe, more than Kriyas Yamsuf? Because the big miracles were tzaddikim, and the miracles happened to the whole Jewish nation. But when a specific individual bacher goes and he sees someone, he went to Yerushalayim and all of a sudden he saw something, and all of a sudden someone asked him, and all of a sudden he saw you're learning a sikh, and right away, this is gilui lekus, that's personal for him. And everyone's able to get it. The Bible is going to explain to you how to get to that. And the way to get that, it's like funny, sometimes you say, oh, punkt, he deleted music off his phone, or pictures, or apps, or he took a haircut, or he stopped doing it. Usually it comes when you kill yourself. Off the bat, a regular person in this world is just hell and the hester. When someone breaks himself, when someone does something like a big step, he deletes someone out of his life, or he deletes something out of his life, or he changes, or he starts doing something, or he breaks something. These people, right away, you start seeing it. Don't be a kloss. You have to realize that when you do these things. And punkt, after you start doing Chiddush Rambam, everything is connected. People think that you're doing this, it's not. No, when you start doing different things, you get more ammunition, you're able to fight things that you were never able to fight before. So Havaya is when you see a likus in the Welt. It's called chesed, it's the level of revelation of godliness, that's believable. That's gilui likus. Havaya is gilui likus. And elikim is sometimes you don't see what's going on. You don't see the answers there, but I never get answers of the Rebbe. Some people never get answers of the Rebbe. There's a very big concealment, there's a lot of tzimtzumim. And the truth is that it's both true. There's Havaya, elikim, there's two modes how God treats us in this world. God made this world, there's two modes. There's Havaya and there's elikim. Havaya is the way God is. You remember this thing? I don't want to go through the whole thing we said it last time, but Havaya is the way the Eibishter is, like the sun, and that is relative on the giver. That's why it's unlimited, and that's believable. That's the biggest revelation. It's Havaya. Oyer and Chesed, I give two examples. And Elikim is when you look at the recipient, how much he's able to handle, and you narrow down the words, you cut down things, you make it shorter, you put it on his level. Very diluted and very watered down energy. That's Elikim. Right? So Elikim is involved, he's in charge, that's Gevurah, that's Kalim, that's Shefa. That's the limited, that's what's limiting down Elikus. That's what makes all the Tzimtzumim and Helen Behesters, all the tsaris. But all the problems, whatever, all the things come from Shem Elikim. So it's such big opposites. How could you say, and you can't just say it, you have to understand in your brain that 2 plus 2 is 5. Could you understand 2 plus 2 is 5? You could say it, you could think about it, you could write it down, but you have to, it's a mitzvah dairais, you have to understand that Havaya Hu Elikim, that's really the same thing. The biggest revelations and the level of Havaya is the same thing as Elikim, and it's the same type of revelation. Same type of revelation, I don't know what to say about that, but it's the same, it's the same meaning. Right? And then I had a question, what Elikim is concealment? Everyone knows that our eyes actually reveal the power of vision. Our hands reveal the power of movement. Our brain reveals the power. It's really revealing. Kelim are really revealing. Why do you think that Kelim are concealing the whole time? Huh? Does anyone know what we're talking about, Bichlal? Is it concealing or is it revealing? So the truth is that it's both. Very good, very good. Obviously you cannot see what's going on in this room right now. You can't see nothing. You can't see even 0 point. You can't see nothing. You see a little bit. You see a person. Even the person you can't even see. The actual person you can't even see. The words you can't see. You can't see nothing. The eyes that we have are concealing over almost the whole power of vision, and we only have a little bit to be able to see. A little bit. And also the hearing and also the understanding. We don't understand nothing. We try to understand a little bit. But it's really concealing and also revealing a little bit. And only through, that's the scary word of the mimer. And we have to figure out how to do this. But the Rebbe says it again and again. The only way to reveal is only through the concealing. Right? Remember that part? Imagine you look at the sun right now, you have the biggest revelation, you can't see nothing. The biggest revelation is the biggest concealment. If someone would have now an intellect and he would just, or an emotion, and he would like his sister got engaged, anything, and he just lets it out the way it is. He would just scream it out. No one knows what he's talking about. You can't even breathe. If you're trying to give away the actual emotion, the actual intellect, it's not going to come out. You have to first relax, calm down, conceal most of it, and you give it over in words to the other person.
Rabbi, me and C learned that basically the neshama understands more of Hashem, and you just can really connect to it better than like your mind can. So, saying, is there a way that you could connect through your mind and really understand?
So it's very important you mention that, because sometimes you have to always mention both points. The truth is, belief is the biggest thing, and the neshama, that is the real connection. It's not we understand Chassidus, we get it from our understanding. No, the neshama side, of course, it's obviously at a much higher level. But God wanted us that also our nefesh habahamas's brain should also understand God, how much it's able to understand. Also, but our connection is not based on our understanding. We're bringing it down also to Chabad and to Midas. For sure, it's on a much higher level. So this was the question of the Rebbe, right? The question of the Rebbe was: make up your mind. Havaya Elokim is two separate things. How could you say that it's really the same thing? Anyone knows what we're holding in the Maimon? Huh? Mem Zayin?
Mem Zayin.
Where?
Like I think Ella.
Yeah, so we're going to start shooting because we. Okay, this is whatever. You can learn the Maimon forever, this Maimon. I don't know, it's to do it fast or to do it, We'll do the third one, Visham. Visham. Where's Visham?
First one.
Huh?
First one.
Where's Visham? Where's Visham? Where's Visham? 16, 17 years ago. When you were upstairs, wow. What you were able to see, understand, and feel. That was very... There was much. You think that your eyes are coming from your eye? No, it's able to see much more from the way. But there was one problem with it. Were you able to see the physical table? But it's a much stronger vision. So you think for sure you can see everything. Although it was higher, the actual raw power of vision was not able to be poyel oz lirosh dover azulas. You couldn't see something else. You can't see nothing else. The way you see something else now. You couldn't see. So is that a disadvantage or is this an advantage? Huh?
You just said you need to consume it. It's an advantage.
It could be just a little example. You have a ultrasound. Someone feels pain inside the stomach or something, so you do ultrasound. Very special camera. You see inside. It's a very superpower of vision, but I don't think you can see the guy's shirt with that power. You can see the guy's shirt?
No.
It's so deep, so it passes all those levels. So the neshama was like an ultrasound. You're able to see God's word in the table we're creating every second and second. You remember the Alter Rebbe before he passed away? You know 3 days before he passed away, he was able to see Mizvar Avaya. So the neshama was able to see the reality that there is in this whole world. He saw much more. But he didn't see the actual physical table the way you see it now. And also understanding. Although it's much higher then, but it couldn't understand things the way it understands now. But you get the point. You know why. Because big stink. If you understand only the course, okay. God wanted you to have a physical brain that understands Tailus, understands all the dirty things, and still learns Chassidus, and still, that's the whole word. And he wanted you to, your vision should go to an eyeball, and you see things that are very tempting, and you see all these kind of stuff, and you still overcome, and you understand that it's really nothing. That's the whole point. So there's an advantage of us seeing now the physicality. But before it was much higher. Why? Because he had a sentence. Before it came down to the body, the intellect that it had, was the actual level, the actual understanding by itself, a raw intellect. It was not, you can never explain to him the mile of the Forney's pizza. He's not going to know what you're talking about. He's not going to understand. He's going to think you're totally retarded. Could be he's right, but you're going to try to explain to him like the neshama's coming down. The neshama's came down to this world, and the neshama was going up from this world. Remember that argument? Like the neshama's, what's going on in that world? What's going to be over there? They're trying to describe it. They tried to tell the neshama that whatever has some sort of value, no one cares about. Tzitzis, omein, the most precious things, whatever, no one cares about it. And the biggest garbage stuff, everyone goes crazy. There's one little thing like this, and the whole world is just running after this thing. And neshama doesn't understand what in the world he's talking about, because the neshama is stupid. Because that guy is smarter. No, he's so smart, so he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. Because it's not understood. Shemus calls Gashmis Bechal and Tfasim Begeshem. And it can be touched to be physical. Kim Lahaskal Skolos Ruchni is the Gan Eden. He only understands spiritual stuff. You're able to see before you came down this world. You're able to see. Did you ever see Ruchni stick his eye? You ever saw with your eyes something Ruchni? Huh? Today they're starting to see such things, you know that? Today you're able to see, there's people that know how to do it also. And also there's different colors. That you're able to see from the Tesla, there's a certain light thing huh? Also Kabbalah, also with Ruchni stick people that can bring you to the next level. Not only you Yidden, but also going to do it. Just think about the fact that you have sometimes you can't see nothing. All of a sudden a certain type of light goes into the room, you see all of a sudden tons of stuff. You know? Like in sunlight, you see all of a sudden crazy things. Or even, you don't see what's going on in your skin. You have a telescope, you see all of a sudden a whole world. You know how many bugs you have on, there's more bugs on your hand more than people in the universe. Did you ever see this video? You ever saw the naked eye? What's going on in your pillow? So it's not there? No, there's a certain tool and all of a sudden you see, you realize you don't see nothing. And by the way, thank God you don't see all these things, right? If you have in food, if you have around, you can see much more now. So over there, the only Ruchni is. When it comes down to the body, it gets locked down in jail, and it's like you only see through a little hole, you see a little bit of stuff in this world. And you see, then you can see other people. You can see physical things. Godel, it's the big rule you have to know. What does that mean?
That means Gilui is
It's very interesting the terms that he uses. The biggest revelation that there is the biggest concealment. Did we speak about it last time? About how do you call a blind person in Torah? Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, so in Torah it's called Saginar. He has a lot of light. So people think it's exciting. You can't see, so they say he has a lot of light. No, he has the raw power of vision. Like looking at the sun, you have the strongest power, but you don't see nothing. You want to reveal your emotion to someone else, you're not going to get nothing. It's going to be the biggest concealment. But when you have a concealment, then the other person is able to receive something. Then you have a Gilui. That was the way it works downstairs in this world. When we called Zayuv and the Maila, became the Atzilis. Became the Atzilis. Are they concealing or revealing? It's a question on the test. The Kalim of Atzilis, are they concealing or revealing? It's both. Shema'alimim al etzem ha'or, the real infinite light of God, for sure it's concealed, because it can't fit into a world, it doesn't fit. And only a little bit, usually only a little bit comes out. And the Rebbe says, only through concealing over the inner light, the way it works down here, only then it's able to reveal the external power. So by the way, what's the main thing? Is it concealing or revealing?
Revealing.
No,
It's doing both.
What's the main thing?
But it comes out that the most of the job of Elikim is really concealing. Okay, a little bit comes out, 0.2%. But Shem Elikim is really the ultimate of concealment. But the Rebbe already cracked a hole in the concealment world. Elikim is concealment. The Rebbe made a question and answer, and a little bit of light comes out of Shem Elikim. You ready? But it's still mostly concealment. All the concealments and the coverings you have in this world, you ever heard of a parso before? We spoke about it last time? Parso? Huh?
You did speak about this.
Remember what we learned? Yeah, so listen, you're learning Gemara Shalom, you're right. Parsa could be also U-turn in Hebrew. That's the parsa, U-turn. It could be also distance. It's 4 mil. But in Chassidus and in Kabbalah, parsois mean a... Parsa is literally it means a curtain. Not kesher? You speak about it last time? You go outside in the middle of the day, it's fast, you see light. It's beautiful. It's a little bit cool. It was a little bit cool today, you have light. If you go into a room, you have less light. Okay. Here you have even less because it's like small little windows. And if you have, let's say, a room with a hole, it's much less light. But it's the same exact light. Tzimtzum, it's always the same exact energy, it's just less in quantity. Parsa is when there's a curtain and the light that comes through the curtain is a different light. It's much more thicker.
Shade. Like it just.
It could be you want to make an example of a colored cup that the light's like a blue light. It's a different color. It's a different energy that comes to it. It's a much more because however much you're going to make tzimtzumim in the energy of the Eibishter, it's never going to fit into this world. It has to be parsois, which is a much more thick. It changes the quality of the oil. The masachim and the conceal and the curtains. Hamavdilim ben oil v'oil between every world. U'v'oilam atzma ikmei apartu shebatzilus sheyish parsa ben amich lamidus. The part between even Chabad and Chagas. U'farsa mavsekes ben atzilus debriya. U'mabriya yish parsoyes anal b'chem ben briya liyitzira b'chem yitzila asiya. U'v'chol oilam yish parsoyes anal. Every world you have so many, you have hundreds and thousands of tzimtzumim and parsoyes until the energy comes to this world. Where did everything come from? Hakol m'shem elikim. Every single time as someone has a concealment, or every concealment that there is in this world, everything comes from Shem Elikim. But on all the every time you feel a little bit of a gilui, all the energy of that comes from the Shem Havaya. So l'fiyah now, according to what we just said now, two total opposites. The zeh makar gilui. What's zeh makar gilui? Havaya. Very good. Zeh mokar gilui v'zeh mokar hester. Havaya is the source of gilui and Elikim is the source of hester. Eichim kul ahad. How could you say that this is one? This is the end of the question of the Rebbe. What's the Rebbe going to do now?
Answer.
Very, very. He's going to tell you the answer, which doesn't. It's going to be hard to understand, and the whole time he's going to be explaining the answer. So first of all, like knowing the answer and then understanding. People always also in Gemara, you always get mixed up with that. I don't understand. First of all, know what the Gemara is saying. Get the words, get the answer into your head. Once you get the answer, then you can understand it. Some people they want to understand it right away. No, the Rebbe's going to tell you the answer now, and we have to try to get the most we can get from the answer, and then we're going to try to understand the answer. What's the next few words? The Rebbe says like again. What does that mean? Remember those words? The three words that changed Hillel Parash's life. The words from Iyuv. You heard of Iyuv? Hillel Parash said how much he was disgusted by the person's body, always disturbing him. And then he looks at this Chabad, it says, wow, only through your body can understand God. Imagine now, I don't know, Arabs come to this room right now. Imagine someone comes and you want to hide. So most people, they're going to go find a place where to hide. You guys going to go? He's going to go like this. Should you actually do that? Because, I don't know, it's like the nature of a person to cover his head. But are you hiding? The kid is hiding or seek, and he's like covering himself like this? You joking? You can't, an existence, you can't cover over yourself. It's impossible. It's impossible for an existence to cover over itself. Also, for example, we know that, we spoke about in class that it's mitzvah d'oraisa according to wear yarmulke. Right? So why you wear yarmulke for? There's three reasons why you wear yarmulke. One of the ones, it's funny because it's only added to the Alter Rebbe in the new print, right? You probably only know the new print of the Alter Rebbe. There used to be the reason why do you wear yarmulke for? Let's see if you remember. The simple reason for yarmulke. The simple, very good. What's the simple reason of the for yarmulke? It's news. People don't even know why you wear it. You only know it's news. Number two is because you know someone's above you. I don't know if it's Batan Shomar for that reason, but the real reason is because by the Goyim, by Avodah Zarah, there was even to go without a yarmulke. So it's a mitzvah d'oraisa, the Rebbe says in Shulchan Aruch, that you wear a yarmulke. Rahman al-Islam, I don't know what happened to this guy. It could be someone came and let's say his yarmulke fell on the floor. Imagine for a second the guy's without a yarmulke. So you put your hand or not? Huh? Put your hand or not?
It has to be a
Is a hand considered a cover or not?
No.
So the truth is, like it says, for the first few seconds, obviously put your hand, but your hand's not considered the covering, because it can't. Ein etzem master al etzem. A person's own an existence itself cannot. Covering means when it's something else covering over you. You can't cover over yourself. Very good. But he gives an example of the yarmulke, and we could give example. We can add also, but he gives the example of yarmulke. By the way, someone else's hand on your head is good or not?
Yeah.
That's the whole raya. Because you say maybe the hand. No, the Rebbe says that someone else's hand doesn't work. Your hand doesn't work. Because it's not considered covering. Ain't etzem master al etzem. So Batachon also, that's why you're supposed to have a sleeve. You can't cover over yourself. It's impossible. It's impossible. Could you understand that? It's Havaya and Elokim both come from God. It's from the same power. And that's why it's impossible that there's any concealment in this world. It's impossible, because it's the same God. And if it's the same God, the same power, it's impossible that one is covering over something else if it's the same thing. So the example of the hand is a physical example that you can all understand. And I don't know why he says it second, by the way. He first gives more of a, you always have to go to the physical thing you understand, then you have to go to the next level to understand the more ruchnis. Every single logic in the world. Every person here, by the way, has a brain and also the source of intellect. And by the way, it's very interesting. Whatever you understand, it comes from the same way of understanding. Everyone has a different way of understanding things also. Everyone has their koich hamaskil. The source of all it comes from your koich hamaskil. Everything you understand or that you invent, every realization that you get comes from koich hamaskil, the deepest part, koich hayuli. And what's interesting is that's obviously Havaya. Right? That's Havaya. That's the power of revealing the power of intellect. Right? Everyone has that. And so when you're speaking, you're giving, it's through Havaya. Every single logic in the world, north, also has its boundaries, its concealments, its limitation. Every single svara you're going to think about has to have some sort of limitation. It's part of the logic, though. So it's not concealing over the logic. It's the same power itself. For example, Migu. Remember the svara of Migu? That you should believe the guy because he was able to say a better. If this guy is lying, the Mashiach asks you a question, and you want to know if you know Migu, it's easier to answer the questions well. And he says, I was there with someone else. He gives a certain sort of, and the truth was he was able to say a much better lie. And if he said that lie, if he said that, it's probably the truth. Migu, right? Does it apply in every case? Obviously not. If there was any reason why he didn't want to say the original taina, so there's no migu anymore, right? If it's two people, there's no migu. Everyone's here or not?
Yeah.
Every single logic that there is has the Havaya and Elikim in it. There's the Gilui and there's the Helen Esther. Is it a real limitation on the logic? No, it's part of the logic, so it's not concealing over it. That's how it works. And this is what the Rebbe is saying. It's impossible there's any concealments in this world. Because everything comes from Shem Elikim. Elikim is part of Havaya. Havaya Elikim Kula Had. So that's the fact. The Rebbe says, but the fact is we see concealments. And we know there's concealments. How could you say that it's impossible there's any concealments? And the fact is that we know that there are concealments. How could you even answer such a question? This Maimer is like explaining something which is like, not that you have a question, you don't know the answer. It's like impossible to answer this question. How could you say that not that there's no concealments, it's impossible that there's a concealment because it's the same existence and it can't cover over itself? Impossible. Number two, there are concealments. So that was going to say, huh? So we're going to go to the Maimer. You have a copy of Kremer. You got to learn the inside. Again, these things you're learning it now. We're learning it very fast, and you have to think about it again and go over it again and again to actually get the point. B'chsiv, Na'aseh Adam. You have the brackets there. Na'aseh Adam b'tzalmeinu k'dmuseinu. What does that mean? Sh'adam na'aseh b'tzalmeinu k'dmuseinu v'lechem k'chas nefesh nevin eich shul ha'maylo. You guys have the brackets there. You have the brackets.
Yeah.
I can't use the word God worked hard, but God made you, Gabi, the way He is. And you could understand yourself if you think about yourself, and that's how God is. God made you also with 10 powers. Chagas, Chabad, Chagas, Nehim, Havaya, Lakim. You have everything in you. God made sure to make you the way He is, and through yourself, because you experience, this is you. So since you experience it, this is how you live your life, you're able to understand the English also. That's what he says in the brackets. Yehine, b'koichas hanefesh, in your life, Shaul atapo, in your life, yesh gam ken koich hagilu v'koich hagbala. Everyone has the power of revealing and the power of concealing. V'ester, of limitation and of concealing. Like the intellectual power that you have. Lahaskel askolis. You can understand. It could be math, it could be Gemara, it could be Tanakh, it could be life. People understand things about life, about themselves, the power of understanding. It comes from the source of intellect that you have in your soul, obviously not your physical brain, nothing comes out of the brain, it comes from the power of intellect you have. Hayuli. You know the word Hayuli? I think it's a Greek word. I think the Ramban you imagine? Like the Ramban was, the first rabbi that brought it into the Pirush and Chumash, and from there it's used in Chassidus many times. It's the source and the potential that you have for anything. Akol mini guluyis sichlius. Sha'akol nimshach mikoyach hamaskil. Everything comes from the koyach hamaskil. So number one, chevre, hariyesh by koyach hagilui. Every person in this room has the power of revealing the power of intellect, of understanding. Some more, some less. By the way, it could be you yourself who can understand more and less. What does it depend on?
On your
Two things. Mainly your interest. However much you're interested in something, you want to learn, your brain works much better in that field. But you're able to understand, you're able to reveal the power of intellect. The guys called Gilo Yisechel Eschachmus in anything. That's why some people, when it comes to business, they have a very good head. Gemara, I can't understand the Gemara. Shkoyach, because business is more important to you. And number two, Yesh Begamkin Koyach HaGabolah. You also have the power of limiting. Lag will call the Seichel, Kayidua. The whole Seichel Usvara. What does that mean? Every single intellect in the world, every single logic in the world has to have some sort of exceptions to the rule and some sort of limitation. If you have a logic and you stick it into every single thing, you're off. The guy's totally off. Sometimes people have a theory and they want to stick it into every single... No. It could be a very good theory, but not in all cases. Sometimes yes and there's no. Also in therapy it's like that. You have times this thing for sure works in all cases. No, there's a lot of ways how to deal with issues, and each way is a good way in different ways. Sometimes they won't work in that case. If there's one thing that works in every single case, it's for sure going to be. Every seichel has to have part of it. It's part of it. It comes from the same power. So it's not covering. It's not a hell in the hester. It has a certain limit. How much it's going to go? Ad po tavo v'tulo. It comes until that's it. If you have a svara that goes so far, but it's for sure it's going to be for sure crooked. Like the amitis. V'chem etzir of kama svaris. Kishiyesh svaris noitis laheter usvaris leisur. Hine kishlo yu svaris mugbalos lo yavoi lo oilam v'gemar lefsoi kach v'kach. V'ayin le'asukei shmaidus liba dehilchase. You ever heard these words before? Asukei shmaidus liba dehilchase. I efshar kim kasha yu svaris mugbalos. Also roye yisa kach svaris lezu also lasso. V'oz dav ki yavoi la'mitus adav v'yuchol lefsoi kach v'kachul. Why do you learn Gemara the whole day? What's the point of learning Gemara? It's not even shaykh to us. It's like so many arguments and opinions. What's the real way of learning Gemara? There's a lot of ways how to learn Gemara. It's pilpul, understanding the Mefarshim and going deeper and deeper. What is the Chabad? I know it's really Chabad, but the Sfardim was more straightforward. But the Chabad also, that's more of the theory. What's the way of learning Gemara? Oh, you ever saw the Mittel Rebbe writes this? Because the Alter Rebbe passed away 7 years before his time. You know that?
Yeah.
Lost 7 years of his life because he got scared when he made the wrong turn on the way in the war. And he came back in the Gilgal. He came back in the next kid. Yeah, Avram Sender. But the Mittel Rebbe, his son, which was so shocked, his father passed away in the middle of nowhere. So he writes that my father really had a plan on how to learn Torah. And I'm going to tell you the plan and make sure you learn Torah like that. Learn Gemara Rashi. Toysus, whatever is Negei Halacha, Rosh, which means the style of learning Gemara is to know what's the halacha l'maisa. Today in Rambam, you guys are learning the Rambam these days? You see always what we learned in class in the Rambam? Every Rambam today you have our Gemara. Pesha Asa, Pesha Hitir, the girl that says I was divorced, the husband. A lot of these things, huh? Yeah.
Said she was tired.
Yeah, if there's a masla or not.
But the example was different than the second one. So because scared of family members.
Our Gemara didn't give the reason why. I think when I said it in class, I said the reason. But the Rambam, it could be just explaining the Gemara that way. I don't know if it says it anywhere. So which means, la'asuke shma, you have to know exactly how to paskin the halacha l'maisa. What's the halacha l'maisa? Do you believe it or not? So there's so many reasons why yes, why no. So how are you ever going to know what the halacha l'maisa? So obviously every single logic has a certain weight. How much it weighs. Is it a strong logic or not a strong logic? Like there's two people coming to you telling you a story. Who do you trust? There's a fight between the one Reuven and Shimon. This guy is saying, I'm telling you, he started. I'm telling you, how are you with the pasuk? So, okay, he just gave one svar. There's probably 10 reasons how, there's 10 proofs that we have. Right? It could be Eidim. Could be a star. In that case, it's no star, but let's say regarding marriage, there's a star, there's a migu, there's a chazaka, there's shvua, there's cameras, there's so many proofs. What if this guy brings Eidim and he has a star? What's wrong? Or a chazaka? Remember Tyson had the question, like, it's very funny how sometimes you crash. He has the migu and he has the chazaka. What's stronger? So in order to even get close to the answer, obviously every single logic has a certain percentage, how strong it is, has a certain limitation to it. Migu, he's not the strongest, right? So whatever. Chazaka is a little bit, it's a question. I think it's even in place it's a question. I think it's a take on the Gemara. But Eidim, what's stronger, Eidim or Migu? Every Seva, is Eidim for sure right? You don't know. But every single logic has to have some sort of limitation to it, and that limitation comes from the logic itself. So it can't be it's concealing, because concealing means when it's something else concealing over it. That's like the point of the answer. Until now we spoke about, for example, let's say the eyeball and the power of vision. Is that concealing or not?
Yes.
Why?
Because you only actually.
But why? Why is it concealing? Because in the beginning of the Maimer, the Rebbe brought an example of two things. It's the eyeball, the eye, and the power of vision. So it's like a concealment. Also the words. You want to put your vision to words, and like they stay up the whole night because the words are concealing. You're right. But the Rebbe now, it changes the whole world. It's not the eye, it's not the example. It's the same exact power, has the limitation part of it. Havayu Elikim. Huh? If I want to ask you, whenever you learn a whole question in Gemara and the answer, so it could be a long answer, but what's the point of the answer? What's the core of the answer? The question was, Havai Elikim is revealing, Elikim is concealing, and how could you say it's the same thing? And the Rebbe explains that you're right, Elikim doesn't reveal a little bit, but it still conceals. Like the power of vision in the eye, the Rebbe says conceals over most of the power, and a little bit comes out. And the brain also conceals, and a little bit comes out in the words. But at the end of the day, according to the question, it still conceals. But why does it conceal? Because you give me examples of two entities, one covering over the other one. The power of vision and the eye. So you're right, in that case it does conceal. Because it's a separate thing. But the Rebbe says, but the Havai Elikim is not two separate things. It's the same existence, and therefore it can't be that it's concealing over itself, like a person's hand for the Amaka. That's the example. So that's why it's not a concealment at all. Listen, the whole Maimon is going to explain. He's going to explain, Gabi, he just says the answer now. The answer is, how can you say Havai Elikim is one? How can you say there's no concealments in this world? So many concealments. So the Rebbe says it's impossible to any concealments because it's really the same power covering over itself.
So the same reason why you have an eyeball is the same reason you have the power to sleep.
But isn't double
The same reason.
so yourself?
By the eye, the power is going into the eye, but the eye is something different. So it conceals over the power of
Yeah,
vision.
the reason why the eyes and so it's two different entities. But
Very
vision
good.
is the same entity.
But a Havai Elikim, yeah, it's the same entity.
The eye doesn't explain how Shem Havai Elikim.
Right. So Ki'ilu, he takes away. It's a good question.
Not
Listen, you have to learn the whole Maimon to get an answer. But as of now, he's going to throw it away. As of now, he throws that thing. It's two separate things. What's mashpia or makabel? A teacher and a student. That he wants the student to understand what's going on. So he's going to put it down until he's going to dilute to say. He's going to put it down into easier words. Yitzamtzem v'yalim v'yagbil. Wow. You hear what he just said now? I'm saying this is going to be maybe in other. I'm not going to go into this now. But the teacher, he has to like erase everything the way he understands. He has to leave. By the way, this is like the most crazy. This is like the biggest thing today that's going around today. The biggest problem that people have is that they're locked up the way they understand things, and if someone else is different, the guy thinks the guy's crazy. You're trying to put your opinion on that person, right? Everyone knows like the 6 and the 9, right? You have the number 6, and I'm looking at this number 6. The guy on the other side screaming it's a 9, and they're both fighting and trying to convince the other person. You're right, it's a 6, and you're right, it's a 9. Depends where you're coming from. Your job, not only of a teacher and a parent, even from a regular person, you want to live life normally. You have to always leave your way of thinking and try to understand the other person. You know? It's like crazy how people, what is this guy doing? How could he be? He's doing this, he's doing that, whatever it is. You're right, for you, does it make sense? For him, it doesn't make sense that he's even, learning and davening, whatever. You have to always understand the other person. So the teacher and the student, he has to first, whatever he understands, he has to put it on the side. He has to cover, he has to even erase it in a way, he says over here, conceals it. And he has to think about the student, what speaks to the student, and then he starts speaking in his language, and he gives it over to him. Because if he's going to give it the way he understands, the guy's not going to understand what he's talking about. If he's going to give it over the way he understands it, he's not going to understand anything. He has to conceal over the way he understands it. Last line of the page, only what's on the level of the student. You cannot tell the kid everything, because the kid's not going to get anything. Even what the kid's able to understand, he's not going to get. You start telling the student all this stuff, what are you talking about? Tell him only a little bit what he's able to understand, and that's it. But if you tell him everything, and also that little bit that he's able to understand, you're not going to get it, because it's everything. This thing is going to be, you're going to learn it in Zal, this is in all the memoirs, it's not going to get to the Maimon so much, I'm not going to get into that, but it's very interesting how it works. And by the way, these things are all the way it works in this world, between you and your friend, and your teacher in class, and everything, and also the way it works, that's the way the world is run. That's called Tzimtzum Rishon, by the way. You ever heard of Tzimtzum Rishon? Siluk. Okay, I don't want to get off but it's, next page, let's finish at least this paragraph, before everyone runs away. If you're going to start going off and explaining everything, it's not going to be according to the Kalim of the Makabel. End of the story. What comes out of this whole story? Nimsa. You have the power of limiting. There's something called limit, but where does the power come from? That power of limiting is also coming from the intellect. The same place where the Gilui comes from, the revelation, the same power of understanding, of revealing understanding, the same exact power is also limiting down the seichel.
Wait, so he can expand his limitations?
Sometimes he gives you the example of the turtle. That his covering is part of him. It's not something else covering over it. Which means the same power of revealing intellect, of understanding, built in that power, you also have the limitation of the intellect until where it's able to go and where it doesn't go.
Same thing.
Where it applies, it doesn't apply. It comes from the same power. So that's why it's not a real limitation, because it comes from the same thing. And by the way, this power of limiting and revealing, Hem Bechinas, fourth line, last word. What's the Rosh Davis? Chesed Gvur. Vayelikim. So it's Chesed, revealing and concealing. Shebekirech HaMaskil. The Bechinas HaChasodim Shaboy, from the level of Chesed, Bo Koyach HaGilui Legal, it comes the power of revealing. Bechinas HaGvura, Bo Koyach HaGvur L'Hagbil. The Rebbe says, it's how it works upstairs also, but Logum is a Yuvan L'Maylo. Bebeis Shem is the Vayelikim. Koyach HaGilui, Koyach HaGvur, revealing and concealing. Shneihem dem Shochim in Soif Atzvus Amos. They both is part of the Eibishter. Kashem shekoyach hagilui shu b'chin Hashem havai neshech matzvus zeren. So just like the power of Havai comes from the Eibishter, and it's just like the Atzmos shari doubled ba'amor or me'ein amor. It's always connected, can never be disconnected. K'moy ken koyach hagvul va'atzimtzum, the same power of limitation of gvul shehu b'chin Hashem elakim neshech gam ken matzvus zeren. So it also comes from the Eibishter. That's the power that he has b'gvul. Mashakircha b'gvul. Mashakosov. Whoa. What's that book over there? What's that sefer? What's that sefer over there? Huh? Avodas HaKodesh. You've heard that sefer before? It's a very famous Kabbalistic sefer from, I think, people who were in Spain. His name was Meir ibn Gabai. He came from Spain. You heard of the Heitevis story? He stole from the Rebbe. The first book they printed was Avodas HaKodesh. Mentioned many times into this. I think almost always this is the quote. This quote comes from the Meir ibn Gabai. Oyer Ein Sof, God is Shleimusod de Koila. You can't say that God is unlimited, because unlimited is also a limitation. Say God's unlimited. In your head, unlimited means that it's not limited, so that's already a limitation. So God is unlimited and he's limited. It's all the same thing, there's no difference. It's something that for us, unlimited is like the biggest power. But being unlimited is also a limitation. And the same way God is unlimited,
Okay, how does that make sense?
I'll give you first example of big and small. Big is better. This is bigger than this. It's much better. It's bigger. Bigger is not always matter because it can't fit in different places. So if something is unlimited, there's no example because everything is limited in this world. But if there was something unlimited, so it would have also its limitation that it cannot be limited. So you can't say God's unlimited because that's also giving a certain description to God. So God has the unlimitedness also, but also has limitation to it. But it's the same power. And that's why it can't be that it's covering over itself. Okay, these words, just listen to the words. You can learn about it again, you can think about it again. To understand it doesn't exist in our world, so we can't... Shem sheyesh lo kerech b'bilti ba'al gvul, kein yesh lo kerech b'gvul. Just like it has the power of unlimitedness, also has the power in limitation. Because if you're going to say, Shem toimar sheyesh lo kerech b'bilti ba'al gvul, ein lo kerech b'gvul, you're saying he's unlimited, then mahas shlem ozoi. Shekashem sheyesh lo kerech b'bilti ba'al gvul, kein yesh lo kerech b'gvul. Just like he has the power of ligvul, he has the power of gvul. V'zeu inyan shem elikim, shu b'chinas kerech gvul, shebe'oren soif atzmus amos. That's the meaning of elikim, which is the power of limitation in the Eibishter. But it's part of the Eibishter also. In Cain, if it's part of the Eibishter, me'achas Hashem elikim, u'bechinas atzmus oren soif mamish k'may shem havaya. Elikim is also the Eibishter. So you can move on, so you can understand, you have to believe. You understand? The Shem Elikim einoi master al Shem Havaya. It cannot be that it's really concealing over Havaya. Shari efshar. It's no such thing. She'etzem yastir al etzem. That one entity is covering over itself. Covering means something else covering over it. It can't be covering over itself. Like a person can't cover over himself. Like it says in Shulchan Aruch regarding what's Kisoy Arosh? Regarding Yarmulke. It doesn't help if you're putting your hand on your head. Why? Because the hand's a problem? No, because Allah, if your friend puts his hand, it is a good covering. It's because it's your hand. That's how it works downstairs, also upstairs. The Eibishter cannot, the Elikim cannot be covering over Shem Havaya. The Ein Etzem Alam Master Aletzem. Zeu Davai Elikim Kula Hadish Shneim Atzmus Oren Soif. It's both one. It's both God, and that's why Einam Hafachim Klal. It's not the opposites. Me'achad Hashem Elikim Im Shukei Chatzim. Although it's the power of Tzimtzum, Mikol Mekoyim. Look at the words. Although it's Tzimtzum, nevertheless Einam Tzimtzum. Umalim Klal Al Shem. It's not concealing at all. Although it's the power of concealing, it's not concealing at all.
So there's no sense of it.
But it is. It can't be mitzamtzim. Although it's mitzamtzim, it's not being mitzamtzim.
How does that work? You can't cover over yourself, so that means.
Yeah. But, so you're going to say there's no tzimtzum?
That's the argument. There is no action.
That's the whole question. So the question is like this: you guys have koyach now a little bit? Kramer, you're here? Come to the table, take a mimer, and learn the mimer. What are you sitting here on the... You have to get the mimer to your head, huh? Is it missing? So where's the regular stuff? Has to be more copies. It's only one thing. Now we're going to start the mimer. This was just like the dome for the mimer. What's the time now? Okay, it's not much to understand, like it doesn't make sense. And I wonder if we're going to understand that after the mimer. That's the question. Now we're going to go on a ride. Now we're going to start the ride. And we're going to see if we understand what the Rebbe Rashab is trying to say over here. It's going to make perfect. It has to make sense because it's a mitzvah deraisa that you have to understand, right? What's the time now?
I'm not going to start.
Everyone left already. What? All these guys left. David, Shalom, everyone's already gone. Huh?
That's what it says, but I don't think it's accurate.
What, 10?
No, this is net 20, but I don't
Could
think
be.
it's accurate.
Because we actually started early. So let's start a little bit with Lahavim. What does it mean Lahavim? That he said the answer. Now you know the answer. But you have to understand. Lahavim biyura dvarim anal. To understand well what in the world is going on. You can state the question. Does that make sense? Haloi kol inin shem elikim. The whole purpose, the whole job description of Shem Elikim is that Samsum Ol Halim. We know that it's Samsum Ol Halim. How could you say that it's not concealing at all? How could you say it's both? Shemalim ve'ine malim. That's the end of the question. Now he starts the answer. What's the Tavis? Very good. Benefesh Odo. The way it works over here in this world, because we can understand ourselves a little bit at least. We can understand what's going on in this world. So through understanding ourselves, we can understand what's going on upstairs. Dihini onuroyin. We see b'mashpia o mekabel. You see by a teacher, by a mekabel. Kisha mekabel rochoik erkoi me'amashpia. What does that mean? Very, very big distance between the mekabel and the mashpia. Ukamei chochem gadol. A very wise man. He's trying to explain something to a little kid, or could be even a bigger guy, but doesn't understand nothing. His brain's clogged. What do you do, by the way? Could you just leave this guy, forget about him? But you want him to get it. You want him to get the seichel. The mekabel koton beseichel, a very small student in brains, very small brain, which is shloi be'erech hamashpiach. How in the world could you fit this intellect into this guy's head? It's like impossible. How is this thing done? Ini behechrich shamashpia yitzamtzem v'yalim etzem sichloi v'chachma. So the teacher's going to have to be mitzamtzem and conceal over his understanding. Sheish ba'dover al muskalahu that you have in that concept. You can't. You have to give over to the student only what he's able to receive. Why? If you're going to give over the depth and the width in that concept, the way the teacher understands it, he's going to get totally mixed up. He's not going to understand anything. So what do? You have to conceal over all the depthness, the width that you have in this chokhmah. You tell him only a little bit, a point of what he's able to understand. What he's able to understand. Also, what he could understand. You have to give him also like stories and like a mashal for him to understand what's going on. And the truth is, mashal udovar zor legamri from that nimshal. The mashal is totally strange. It's totally different than the actual nimshal. It's concealing over the seichel. That garment is covering over the actual thing. Let's say a garment on a person, the levush is covering over the actual thing. So when you're giving over, you're speaking to the student, kamaykan amashal, hu davar zar. The mashal is like an alien concept. V'nifrad min animshal, u'mechasa al animshal. Yeah? We're going to explain soon. I want to read the words, and we're going to explain a little bit more. The third last line. Omnom, ayidei zeh, through the mashal, Yitvois by nimshol. Through the mashal, is able to understand the point. The nimshol, v'yovin. The brackets, liyosei mechuber el nimshol, being that the mashal is very accurate. It's very exact to the nimshol. Just like the levush is according to the level of the melubush inside. V'amashal korei bilov. The mashal is close to that. Through the mashal, you're able to understand the Nimshal. I'm going to read a little bit more, I'm going to explain a little bit. Okay, understand what's going on in Be'erech?
Yeah.
Read a little bit more, we're going to explain. Zeh Shomer Razal, Lo'oyle Mishana Odom Talmidei B'derech Tzora. When you teach the student, you have to teach it in a very short way. Hainu, don't explain to the kid every detail and the depthness and every svara and the width and the connection that has to all the things. Don't tell him the whole. You're gonna mix the guy up totally. Don't tell him everything. The way you understand, because that's not gonna be. He's not gonna get nothing. You have to be a teacher that understands how to give it over to the student. And you have to find the shorter way. Does not reveal the whole depthness from the concept. The depthness, the width, and the length. Only way he's able to understand. Even when you tell him, it should be also in short words. Don't tell him. Don't speak. Don't mix the student up. אין הכוונה שלא יהיה בזה בחינת פנימיס ואטמיס שכלוי. ואם כן, אין זה דרך קצר כמו שכל אחר. Okay, let's just explain a little bit what's going on over here, then we're going to read it, continue reading inside. In Sfas, you had very holy people living in Sfas back in the days, you know that? Sfas was the center of Eden. Nigla and also Kabbalah, especially Kabbalah. If you want to learn Kabbalah, it says that Sfas is a very special year. And one of the most special people that we know in Kabbalah was the Helike Arizal. Where's the Arizal born? He's born in Yerushalayim. Then he moved to Mitzrayim. He lived in Mitzrayim his whole life, you know that? He was in Yitzhak for a year and a half. He was by the Nilus. Who was his chavrosa? Eliyahu Hanavi. Because his father passed away when he was a little kid, so his mother couldn't support the. I don't know if he had any brothers or sisters, but the mother couldn't support him, so they went to. She had a brother in Mitzrayim, and he was there, and he learned a lot. That's where he grew the most. Nobody really knew about him. I don't think he was in the yeshiva with Misal Ashkenazi, with the Shita Mekubetes. But whatever, he was in Mitzrayim. All of a sudden, one day, he tells him that you have to go to Tzfas. What do you have to go to Tzfas for? Why do you come to Tzfas for? Why in the world would you come to Tzfas for? What was the point? Big question, huh? So the point was that there was someone in Tzfas that he had to take care of. Who was that person? Chaim Vital. That's the tradition that we have, that he was the main guy that he came to. The Arizal was mainly, obviously he taught a lot of people, right? But the Chaim Vital was the main one. All the Kisvei Arizal that we have today, there are a lot of students, but in Chabad we're strict. Mainly. Sometimes we have also others foreign, but mainly from the Chaim Vital. Although it was covered, whatever it was, Chaim Vital, if only he went to the Kinneret to give him from the very Chaim Vital was the main student. So the Arizal now was someone that it says about him, he was a baki in the streets of Atzilis, more than the streets of Tzfas. I always find new ways how to get to this. He didn't know. He was someone that saw Atzilis, he saw the spheres, he saw the Kus. He was someone that was more out of this world than this world, right? And he comes to Tzfas, and he sees all the Chevah that were there. He's Chabura, the Gurei Hari, it's called. All of the lines that were there in Tzfas. And he's trying to teach them Kabbalah. You ever saw Malchus Atzilis? How in the world could the Arizal explain to you Malchus Atzilis? So that's called a real teacher and a real student. Not that the teacher knows something and the student doesn't know he's telling information. A real teacher means that the teacher is telling something to the student. It's impossible for a student to understand. It's be'ein arich. It's different worlds. Right? Two different worlds. And so the Arizal just leaves the room. He's taking him, no. His job was to teach Chassidus, right? So how in the world could you teach Malchus Atzilis to someone that never saw it before, never understood whatever it is? Okay, he doesn't say the Arizal here, but he says about a big wise person, you're trying to teach something to someone that does not exist in his world. So obviously you can't give it the way you see it. It's no. You have to put away on the side the way you understand it. Think about the student, what he's able to understand. You put it down to words, into less words, mitzamtzim, and you're limiting down the words. But the students are never going to get it. What's the only way to do it? That's the scary part. That's the scary part of the mind. That's like there's no other way. There's no other way how to do it. The only way is you go to this student and you tell him, you know, out of yeshiva they're building a new building now. There's earth. You ever saw earth? Earth, you understand, it exists in your world. In the earth, you put in seeds. It could come out of orange tree, come out of apple tree if you want. It come out. You can plant it. Everything can come out of the earth. The earth is round. It's thick, and that you understand. You see it. And you could see things growing in spots, you see things going out of the ground. So after you explain how the earth works, the teacher tells you that is Malchus Datzilus. Which means you bring a mashal into the story. And by the way, the mashal is something alien to the concept. It's something else, right? And if you would come to the class in the middle of the story, you would hear the mashal, crazy class learning about trees, orange trees, apple trees. Imagine someone comes for a second and hears this. The mashal is a concealment on the intellect, right? But the truth is that for the Arizal himself, the earth was not a concealment. Why not?
He already went through.
He saw
So everyone's saying the famous dance. He knows the whole thing the whole time. It's not a concealment, but it's much deeper than that. The earth outside is Malchus Datzilus on a lower level, which means it's not something alien. A real mashal in Chassidus is not something else. Oh, I'll give you an example. No, a real mashal means the same exact thing as the nimshal, just on a lower level. So the Arizal, had to go to the lowest level that he understands. But the truth is that the way Malchus Datzilus comes all the way down, everything comes from the earth, everything comes from Malchus Datzilus, and that is Malchus Datzilus on a lower level. That's why for the Arizal it wasn't a concealment, because for him it was the same thing. And if it's the same thing, it can't be concealing over itself. So there's 3 steps in the story here. You have to get the Maimon explains these 3 steps. Number 1, you have to understand that for the teacher, there's no concealment. But the mashal is something strange, it's a concealment. But first of all, you have to understand that for the teacher, it's not a concealment, which means that it's not a real concealment. If it was a concealment, it would be a concealment for everyone. If the guy that's standing on the other side of the curtain realizes that it's not a concealment, it means that it's not a real concealment. For him, it's not a concealment. And why? Because for him, it's one. For the teacher, there was never a concealment. He sees, not only that he knows the Gabi, not only that he knows the Seichel the whole time, even in the lower words, in those words that he's using, he sees in the words every single detail that he wants to, it's all in those words.
The teacher does that.
The teacher. As of now, it's only the teacher. And even when he brings the mashal, the teacher sees in the mashal, he sees every single detail of the nimshal, because it is the nimshal on a lower level. But Gabi is saying very shkech, but the student doesn't get it. So step number 2, let's go to the world of the student. Why did the teacher bring the mashal to the story, to the class?
Because that's how the only way they can know.
It's just in order to reveal to the student. Very good. So, and the truth is, the student does get some sort of feeling after the mashal, right? And the truth is, the whole goal of the concealment is just to reveal. The whole goal of the concealment is just to reveal. If you think about it, that's the fact. When it's very hard, when you have the challenges, when it comes to the concealments, that's what takes out your guts, that's what takes out your power. Huh? But the truth is, there is a gila that comes out of the mashal, you're right, but the fact is, it's still concealing. You're right, the goal is to reveal, but he gets something out of it.
So is he like building him up?
If that's step number 2. Step number 3 is a real student. He got the point of the teacher. He goes to his room and he learns the Maimer again and again and again. And he's attacking every single letter, every single word, and the mashal that the teacher uses. And he works on himself for 40 years. When you 40 years work on the Vart well, you're going to figure out, you're going to get every single detail of that concept the same way the teacher has it, which means that there's no concealment at all.
40 years.
Because there was never a concealment to begin with. It ki'ilu looked like a concealment for the time
I
then,
just got it.
and it was just for you. But the fact that you think 40 years later the student just became a genius all of a sudden? No, it was always there. The teacher gave you everything. Because if he only gave you a little bit, it wouldn't be daluri dan seichel, it would be a different seichel. So the teacher already then gave you every single detail. But it wasn't revealed to you. You didn't see it then. It was still there. The teacher saw it the whole time. So step number one goes as a teacher, he saw it the whole time, because that's the truth. For you, he gave it to you in a secret way. He told you only a few words, and it was just, in the Yukim he gave you. For you, at least, but you still got something out of it. In step number two, you still got something out of it. But it's still a concealment. But the truth is, if you work on those words, on those letters, you're going to realize there was never a concealment to begin with.
The teacher doesn't conceal it.
There was never a concealment. For the student, in the beginning, it looks like a concealment, but if he works, that's the whole job. That's the mashal. It's funny because that's the story. How does that answer? So what's the word? God wanted to make one day a world. Why? That's like the biggest question. What was missing? What was the Abishter wanted? Huh?
No question ever.
So the answer is a lot of answers. All the answers, but the dir b'tachtonim, to make a dir b'tachtonim, which means you have to make tachtonim. God wanted to make a very limited world. So from Havaya itself, it's impossible. Hashem could do anything, obviously, right? Hashem could have made it. But Havaya is Gilui, Alakus. God wanted to make a world that you don't see any energy of God in this world. You see a table looks like it's independent. If you're a real klutz, you could even live your whole life thinking that the table is independent, there's no energy. Today, by the way, you can see it. Today, it's already proven there's atoms, there's things moving, there's life also in a rock. But if you're a real klutz, you don't know nothing, you're just on TikTok and WhatsApp, you don't realize what's going on. You can see there's no life and there's no God, there's no nefesh. Oh, you think for a second you see there's a nefesh. But the world, you don't see. The world, God wants to make a world, there's no alikus. So how do you make that? How did God make it? Elikim. Elikim is the one that made all the concealments and all the tzimtzumim and the parsayos all came from Shem Elikim.
That's not actually concealed.
Which means, so it's different than the mashal. In the mashal, there's a student, there's a teacher and a student, and you want the kid to get it raised, so then you give him a mashal. Right? There's three players in the story: the teacher, the student, and the mashal. In the nimshal, it's to make the student, to make the world. God, from Havaya, you cannot make, Havaya is Gilui. God wanted to make a world without any Gilui at all. So God made a mashal. He brought Shem Elikim, which looks like Atzilus is less than Bria is even less, and Yitzhak is less, and there's Kalim, and there's Tzimtzum, and there's concealments, and there's all these things in this world, until, the world's full of concealments.
It's all fake.
The world is full of concealments. There is concealments. Shem Elikim makes hell and Vesta. There is a mashal in the story, right? There is something else that is something. The earth, it makes it's a difference, and it makes that in the earth. You bring the earth into the story. First of all, you have to know. What's the first thing you have to know before anything? It's impossible that it's a real concealment.
Oh, say that again?
The first thing, the point is you have to know that it's impossible that there's any real concealment in this world, because everything comes from God, and God you can't conceal over yourself. So first of all, you know it's impossible.
Are you limiting God when you say that sentence?
So it's a good question, but that's the way God made it,
How do you know?
because He gave rayas before. Ein etzem master which means.
But doesn't your whole mushal, the question in the mushal
Okay. You're asking a good question. You have to think about it.
If your question is based on the mushal, and the mushal is this conceals and this doesn't conceal, but the whole thing is that they're both God and everything's God, then clearly Hashem made part of Himself that can't conceal and part of Himself that can conceal.
But the Eibishter also wrote in Torah this rule, which means God also gave us that rule, which means God saying that's the rule. Shulchan Aruch says that, and that's the fact that God. You're right. God also made that also. God could have made it different also. You're right.
Right. I'm saying just like this also.
Yeah, you're right. So, but every thing, the Eibishter made it in such a way. You're right. Hashem could have made it differently. But the way God made the world is that there is a rule, there's a fact that an entity, one entity cannot cover over itself. It's impossible that there's any real concealment. Number one, that's the answer. But there's three steps in the answer. Number one, for the teacher, there's no concealment. He sees also in the Misham, he sees Elikus also over there, which means for the Eibishter, there's no concealment. The Mashiach, Golus, Eretz Yisrael, Atzilis, and your backyard is the same thing. For the Eibishter, there's no concealment because it was all one. That's number one, which means who cares about the Eibishter? No, that means that it's not a real concealment, because for the Eibishter, it's not a concealment. But step number two is that even for us, is it a real concealment?
No.
Just stop for 5 seconds. And you could think about it, and you could realize that you have energy in your body. Really. You can see that, but you could, which means you do get something. Although there's a lot of concealment, but it's not a full concealment. You could realize that you have energy. There's some sort of, you don't know that it's godly energy. Okay, this helm Hester on that, you don't realize that it's God. But you think about it, you have energy, and by the way, also your friend has it, and also Goyim have it, and also animals have it, right? Because there's some you can't see it, which means the energy of God in this world, you are able to feel it. You're able to feel it. It is a concealment, but if when a Bachur learns Torah, learns Chassidus, and he thinks about it again and again and again, you're able to get to the realization that there's no concealments at all. Because there was never a real concealment to begin with. And that's our whole job in this world. So the Rebbe is going through now, the Maimer is going through the whole mashal. That is Mashiach. Mashiach is when Havayu Elokim Kol Echad, when it's revealed to the world that Havayu Elokim Kol Echad, and there was never any, that there's no concealment.
It was almost physically impossible to actually get to the level of like seeing that every.
So listen, you are now looking at the ultimate level. You're right. But every person in this room, every day, you get on a higher level. Which means every time you pass a certain challenge in life, right away, you're on a higher level. You have some people that they're very limited to nature and you have to go to school to make a part. The whole life is just limitations and concealments. But your job, it's not as if 40 years later he gets the point. You think automatically 40 years later? No, he works every day. Every day he gets more and more. And 40 years, that's when you get all the way. But it's not as if it's black and white. The ultimate level, he's saying it's impossible. It's a good question.
It's true. I was like,
The ultimate level occurs in Mashiach, huh?
yeah, but officially, like, I was speaking to whatever people about that. It's like mostly that Hashem's going to do his part, but we do mostly.
Yeah. Because we know people did also in this world. They got to that level.
To decode every single item.
Yeah,
This
but
world,
that
every
considered a
single.
Tali Gomer?
They're going to be able to refine every single thing in the world. Time Mashiach comes. It's mostly about it.
Wouldn't that be considered a Tali Gomer?
You know, listen, we didn't do it. We didn't start. I'm just seeing the point of the Maimon outside. But that's I was give an example. The lady, the rabbi came home to his house, and his daughter was crying. Why was his daughter crying? Because by mistake she put vinegar instead of oil into the candles. Right? So what did the father say? Look, what are you crying for? The same one that said that oil should light could say vinegar should light. And this is what happened. So you say, oh, that was a miracle, this guy. No, he lived his life, that this whole thing that's called nature, it's not a real existence. If you think nature is real, it is going to be real for you. If you think you have to work hard to make money, you're going to have to work hard to make money. If you think you have to make a keli and you have to go to school, whatever it is, that's what you're going to have to do. If you think nature and the Elohim is a real Helen Bester, then that's what it's going to be for you. But if you know and you understand, you live your life, that you don't need this, you're not going to need to have it. Depends on the person. And every person has that on a different level, right? It depends how much of the kid. Some people make business and they have to put all their energy into the business. Some guys, that goes easy. It depends on how much reality you give to this nature. That's how much it's going to be real to you. It's regarding anything in life, by the way, also. Like any issue you have. If you think there's a real issue that you have to take care of the issue. That's what's making the issue. When you realize that the issue is garnished, it's stuck in nothing. So one day they tell Avraham Avinu to go into the fire, right? So what happens? What did Avraham Avinu think, by the way? He's going to get burnt. Why? Because that's the nature God made. Which means there is nature, there is Teva. Teva comes from Shem Elokim, right? Okay? He goes into the fire because that's what God said so. God said so. And what happened when he went into the fire? So what happened? So some people think fire burns, but God could do anything. So God broke nature to save out. It was a mess, right? He broke nature I was saying it's not that's the pshat that he broke nature like fire. Who says fire burns? That's the nature of God's name, but that's not as if fire has to burn and now you break that. Who made it up? God made nature. God made above nature. And it's the same thing. There's like a natural thing that the water takes away fire. Sometimes fire could also take away the water. You know, by Eliyahu Novi, they put the water on the Mizbech and the fire burnt water. Which means it's all the same thing. It's all the same Eibishter. And there's no reality that if you think it's a real Helen of Hester, that's what it's going to be. But our whole job in this world, it's hard to use these words, but whenever you use these words, it's really to overcome the challenges of life. Because every single challenge that a person gets, it's just to pick him up. The only way the student can get the seichel is only through a muscle. The only way you could get the energy is only through the muscle. Only through the concealment. The only way for someone to gain, to go to the next level, like everyone wants to why the answers of the Rebbe and all of a sudden getting money, all the students, you know these stories, you have a all of a sudden got $1 million from someone, whatever it is. You think, why the stories don't happen to me? Well, you were for 10 years working and not having money to pay for gas and having your kids to learn an online school because you have no money to pay for gas to go to the school next to you. You know how much work you have to do? Everyone always says the success stories that they have. But you know how much you have to break yourself? The Bacher here was connected with who knows what and deletes from his phone different apps that he was very hard for him or whatever. You have to break. You have to, God's giving you the muscle, giving you the concealment. And it's very tough. It could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could be a taiva, it could be, everyone has their concealments. But you have to understand that concealment, that is the source of your success. God's giving you a package, which is the most expensive and precious package. And when you're going to break the package, open it up, you're going to get the energy inside, and that's going to be you're going to get on a higher level, you're going to be a little bit above nature. All of a sudden you realize that you have more success in Yeshiva, all of a sudden you get accepted, all of a sudden business goes well. You have to understand that people have it easy in life. Some people have it, and that is when you get the Havayu Elokim. It's not only regarding the mind, also regarding life. You know that people in the world today, many people use maybe 5% of the potential that they have. You know the potential you have? But how does it work? Social anxiety. You're scared to ask this because you don't know what he's going to tell you. People think about you, and you try living your life based on what people think about you and peer pressure. And that's why, just give a little example. There was once a singer that had a big problem with his teeth, and it was a lady. She was trying to sing, but she was embarrassed. She was trying to cover up over her mouth, and the music didn't even come out well. People were like, whatever. Someone told her, "What do you care? Who said that that makes any difference?" And right away she sang afterwards, and it was the best music. It's the same person, but people make their blockages on themselves. They're scared to be chazan. They're scared to go out. They're scared to ask questions. They're scared they have no guts to open up their own company. You don't know. You know how much power you have. There's nothing that's impossible. You can do anything, especially a Yid. So even Goyim have this power. Everyone knows the secret. The secret. People are scared. The more you believe, the more stronger the more able you're going to do. You're going to break all the limitations and concealments that it's all imaginations. It's all. Can't say it's totally fake. But but your job, it's there just for you to break it. And when you break it, boom, you get to a higher level.
It's real.
Yeah, if you think Elokim is in a real existence for itself, it's a separate thing from Havai. It's a real Helen of Esther, so then it's going to be Helen of Esther. But it's impossible that it's Helen of Esther. It's impossible that there's anything concealing over Havai. It's impossible. But it feels like, okay, it's there just because that's the only way to get you to a higher level. Like the Alter Rebbe was kicked out of the house, and he got to a higher level, right? Whoever has success in life had to go through their, and they broke it. That's when they broke all their limitations. You can't be scared. You have to just break it.
But if when Hashem sees it, he sees it all equal. How can we doubt if Hashem take something that is not even there?
Because Hashem also sees the way you see it.
He sees both ways.
Hashem sees the way you see it, and Hashem made you see it that way because He wants you to speak to Him. And you speak to Him, and He's going to help you out, but He wants you to do it.
When you ask Hashem,
So you dive into Hashem, like you say, you're diving it. You're asking Hashem to take away the taivas, whatever it is. And sometimes that taiva, it could be you're supposed to have the taivas. You're supposed to try to get rid of it. Sometimes you can't get. Some things you can't get rid of. Some taivas you can't get rid of. It could be the most disgusting taiva. Rabbi, if you know what kind of taivas I have, nothing wrong with having taivas. And it could be that taiva is your energy, which is giving you all the credit for learning for davening, You know, if it was easy for you to learn and daven and to control your eyes, control your machshavas, then you wouldn't get nowhere in life. So God gave every single person anxiety or depression or temptations or addictions, or everyone has something, because that is the method and the only method that there is for you to get to the real energy. Imagine, the only way is only through the muscle. So what are you gonna say? Is there concealments or not?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah.
It's impossible to
At the end
do
of the day, it's
this.
not. Yeah, but there is.
There isn't.
Yeah, I agree.
Huh?
The purpose of it is fine, is to not conceal it. If anything, it's the opposite. But you can't negate that in itself as a concealment. The curtain's still a curtain, even if it's meant to be open. You can't negate that it's blocking you from seeing what's behind it.
Before you was not.
You know, you're like trying to pour all the oil into the cup. It's gonna spill everywhere. So use a funnel. The funnel is narrowing down the oil and making it less. But is it a you're right. I'm saying you're right, but everyone's right. There is some sort of tzimtzum. There is, because there's something called tzimtzum, there's a concealment, whatever it is. But it's just for the oil to go inside.
It's concealed in a way. It's not.
It's not a real concealment, and your whole job is like you know what we like the real taich of hell and behester, like the real concealment is a deeper type of revelation. Revelation goes to a certain line and can't go further. Concealment means pulling the revelation to a deeper level and revealing even more. But the only way to reveal is only through squeezing, you know, to get the oil out of the thing. So hell and behester, there's something we call concealments. But the definition, the real meaning of concealment is bringing the kishkis, bringing your deepest powers that you have.
Is it like a Yerida of Sarah?
Yeah, but it's not even a Yerida, you know, like
No, for sure.
these examples. That there's a lot of examples. If you give 20 examples to understand the point, you know, like the mother sees that the kid, you know, that the mother sees.
Read at all. I'm saying, but it's like in the same concept. That there's a concealment. You're not seeing it the same way it's like you're reading.
No, if I ever see you
it.
assume that it's real.
Yeah.
Same day, I'll see that it is.
Sometimes I'm playing games with my kid. You know, I'm walking with my kid, and then before the kid realizes, I run behind the car, and the kid is by himself. He's lost. You ever did it to your brother?
Yeah.
The kid's screaming. You want to see how long it's gonna take? And he starts screaming, "Tati!" Yeah. So when the father conceals himself from the kid, what did they do? It revealed the deepest connection that he has to his father. Come when you're walking, he doesn't even realize you're there, Bechal. He's walking, he's thinking about himself. You leave, come he walks a few steps even without you, he doesn't even realize you're there, then you realize the difference, Bechal. After a while, the kid realizes the father is gone. Sometimes he starts screaming and crying. It's the deepest connection that he has to his father. So that was the concealment. That was the biggest gilui. This example was brought in the Altam Muslim, in the Kutadei, we know. You don't realize there's a God in the world. Sometimes he has to hide himself, you know, just to reveal the connection that you have to the Eibush there. But if you're a real cloth, not to realize it. If you do it faster, you realize it right away. You don't have to wait for the concealments, you know. But all the concealments is just to reveal deeper power. And the faster you reveal the power, the faster the concealments are going to be gone. Not that it's going to be gone. You're going to realize that it was just revealing.
So are you supposed to daven not to have challenges, or are you supposed to?
So it's a very good question. So it comes out, we're going to go through it in the Maimer, but as if the best thing is challenges, but we daven every single day, we don't want to have challenges.
We want to experience that
Because,
challenge.
no, we don't want to have any challenges, and there's ways that to do it without. You could be just learning about the challenges. It's going to be, if there was any challenges that we have to have in life, we should be just learning about it, and that's it. But whatever. You shouldn't have, obviously we don't want to have any challenges at all, but sometimes we get a little bit of a challenge, and it could be it's really nothing. And you just let it's really tacking nothing. It's nothing said nothing. You know that they once told your elder Zayda to go kill his son? Remember that story? 37-year-old kid? And your grandfather had to go kill him? It's a very, very big challenge. Right? Imagine he tells you to go kill your grandma's son. Imagine he has to kill Gabi. What are we going to do? He takes his son to go kill him, to shecht him, right? And what was the end of the story? Nothing. No one ever told you to just go down. But by the end of the day, what was the point of it all? It was a game. You know what kind of powers Avin was revealed through that thing? Every Nisayan is the same exact. It's just air. It's just to pull out that power. It's not real. Every Nisayan. If you think, oh, I'm so scared to speak to this guy. What am I gonna do? This thing happened to me. I'm gonna be busted. All these kind of stuff. You have to understand that's really just to bring out a deeper power that you have. And when you know that, when you realize that, you're gonna see that everything's gonna fall apart.
Also, for this the boat was stuck in the thorns, and if it was not going to take it, because the whole thing is that it was easy, that you won't do it.
Anyone see what you said? It's a very good word. This translated into. So he's about to check the sun, right? No. So what are you going to do now? You're going to check. You already prepared your knife. It's hard to make a knife for shkita. You wanted to cut? No, you can't cut nothing. So he can't waste the whole thing. You know what? So I'm going to carbon. So Hashem gave him a ram. But he was way too scared to check the ram. Things very, very fishy. What was very fishy here?
It's too easy.
It's too easy, can be. So Hashem made the ram stuck with thorns. He says if he's stuck with his thorns, that's how you. Oh, this is probably kedusha, because kedusha doesn't come easy. The fact that it was so fast, it was probably from the klippus, from tumah. The fact that it was hard, he was stuck with the thorns. That's when he realized, when something comes with a concealment with it, it means that you're on the right path. You know.
So why don't we dive into that? Why dive in to take the weight off your shoulders when we can dive in to have stronger legs?
What's the simple answer to the question? Like the first answer to the question.
We do?
Experience with
I
that.
think it answers almost all questions. Huh? A lot of questions.
I feel like we should change our whole diet.
God said so. God told you, whenever you have any issue, there's a mitzvah, you have to ask God to be good in your eyes. By the way, it could be, and you could gain that with, God could give you God could do anything, and He could give you what you need to get even without challenge. Although we said that the only way is only through a mashal, but God could do else without the mashal.
Alright, so we should also dive for that.
Yeah. So what's the time? We'll do a little bit more. Huh?
I don't know what time before we answer.
What time is it now? 30:10?
I think it's around time.
Where are we holding the mimers? I think we're going to stop over here. Where are we holding the mimers?
That's
Muse.
what behind you.
It's the last
The last word is
five.
He goes, we said it's very short. The Maimon goes through, he elaborates every single detail. The teacher, he's giving over to the student, and he wants kids to understand. And he loves the student, and he's trying to give him words. He's using a mashal. But the point is that in the mashal, not that he tells him only a few details and that's it. The teacher, such a professional teacher, he tells him, he puts into those words every single detail and details of the intellect. Everything goes through. Like for example, you have the Mishnah, right? The Mishnah is very short, but the fact is, you know how much intellect you have in that Mishnah? How do you know? Because there's like 5 pages of Gemara explaining the Mishnah, questions and answers. And by the way, everything was in the Mishnah. So there's a letter vav, whatever, which means that everything is there, but you just see the point. It's revealed to you only the few words. But obviously, the teacher put in, which means everything is there. There's no real concealment. Every single detail is in those words. Va'akavanu shesichlo ha'atzmi. It's the 7th line on the page. Yilamdenu b'derech k'tzara. You're giving over the depthness. Every single detail you're giving over in a short way. Va'ayinu shebehelim. You don't see it revealed in Helim. Yesh b'hashpa kol oimek sichlo v'chamasoi b'muskalahu. Every single detail of the teacher goes into the mind. El shebehelim legamri. The kid doesn't see it. Everything gets concealed. Like the Gemara Mishnah. The Mishnayis. Shoshanu lo Rabbeinu HaKodesh. The Rabbi Donasi wrote down Mishnayis. Harzeh HaKitzer. It's really a kitzer. Mikol arichus ha'pilpul v'ha'oimek oirech v'reichev shor eslam v'enyin. They spoke hours and days and weeks and months on the Mishnah. But when they wrote it down, they put everything down into 20 words. But it was, you know how much information you have in those words, you have to put into those codes. But he didn't want to tell us because he don't understand what's going on. So, we should understand. But the truth is, in that Mishnah, Yesh B'Loshen HaMishnah, Kol Oimek Oirech V'Roichev Pnimis V'Asmis Chacham also. It's not as if he skipped out and he deleted all the information. He didn't delete anything in those words. How do you know? Mivur Acharkach Proti Loshen HaMishnah explains every single detail of the Mishnah, what's adding, what's every letter of the Mishnah. The Mishnah Behelin. So the teacher is concealing in that those words all of his wisdom. He's giving over everything.
How do you do that?
Huh?
How does a teacher do that? How do you know how to do that?
Yeah, so it's not the teacher that we have today. This tells you a few stuff. But the real teachers, it's a very strong power to put into those words every single detail. Did you ever do this before, by the way?
Do what?
When it comes to Gemara, the whole day. The Gemara asked me a question, and it could be I'm going to tell him, but the actual answer of Tosfos, the guy doesn't get it. And I know he doesn't get it. But I'm still going to make sure to tell him all the words, and you have the actual question and answer. You can still say the answer. You still know the answer, right? But the actual answer is there in those words. But I gave it over to him, but he doesn't realize that it's there. Maybe after by Chazar, whatever, he goes over a few times. That's what Tosfos is saying. That's the answer. And then it clicks. All of a sudden you got it now. No, it was there. You had the words you have the whole time. But the click, the pneumius. This is an example, but here's obviously much more. So we're going to stop over here. Let's go. Maybe you want to Shabbos, we'll do the next shot. Where are we holding now? Tess? What the kid understands is just the question. Okay, I got the question of the Gemara. You know, sometimes just to know the question. I know for him it's enough just to know say the question. So the kid, the Baruch usually understands, he doesn't get the real question. So he just tells me, "Is this the question? Tell me if I'm right." It means you don't tell me if I'm right. He tells me the question. I say, "Yeah, you're right. That's the question of Tosfos. That's the question of the Gemara." But do you actually understand the actual question of the Gemara? On a certain level, yes. But when you think about it again and again and again, that's when you actually, it's not if yes or no, you get it 10%, 20%, 50%. But the actual seichel, you're getting it afterwards. So, make up the michya.